Hello and welcome, friends! Frenzy here, bringing you Kerbal Space Program Testing 1.0. And we probably look at, I would say, the biggest overhaul to Kerbal Space Program. This will be a big kick in the teeth for some players, but in a good way. Aerodynamics. That's right. That's why we're flying a plane. So it's really exciting to kind of take a look at this whole process of look at the aerodynamics, and you can just see right now it's completely different. We have the camera shake, which is not really necessarily pertaining to aerodynamics, but if you remember that video I made, like, you know, kind of hyping 1.0 and talking about this, you know, this was stuff you could not do. You could not go through the atmosphere like this at this level. You know, it felt like you were flying through jello, basically. And that was an issue. So now we can actually go ahead and finally fly through the atmosphere like a normal plane would. So that is fantastic. I'm not necessarily a big plane person as it relates to Kerbal Space Program, but okay. Yeah, you can also crash planes too, so that's exciting. But that's my fault. So, as I was kind of saying, you know, not necessarily the biggest plane person, but new aerodynamics make a huge difference. I think really it's going to be, you know, something I'm going to probably look into for, like those aerial survey missions that you got. I think I'm actually going to start to do those because this is kind of fun flying through the atmosphere here in Kerbal Space Program 1.0. So it's exciting. Now I'm just kind of demonstrating too. You used to basically, it didn't matter what you really had going on. If you had like some kind of jet engine, you would cap out pretty much at 200 meters a second. And so that is no longer the case anymore. You can see we have those sweet Mach, or I think it's transonic effects, I believe. And so, yep, that's something that's new too. So if you're going that fast and you expose such a big surface of your aircraft, you know, it's going to break apart. And those of you that play Ferrum Aerospace Research, so FARMOD, you'll remember that. That's something that happened, and that was something that, you know, was a difficulty that you had to deal with. Is if you're going that fast and, you know, you pull up or you move you turn a little bit too far, you're going to end up breaking your entire aircraft up. And so that's really cool. I actually really like that. So it really requires you to have some patience and have some fun. And we're just kind of flying along here. I think I'm going to take this thing for landing. I think that'll be kind of the goal here as we fly around. So new aerodynamics are pretty amazing. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just, it'll be an experience. And one thing I probably should have done too is I really just focus on planes because, let's be honest, that's a main thing. But it also affects rockets too in a big way. You'll see those new air brakes, which is kind of part of this, as well as the new gears that you kind of see here. So this is all kind of new stuff that we get with the new aerodynamics. So that is very exciting. Those cool looking air brakes. And as you saw, that really, you know, the game models drag effectively now. So, you know, that's huge. That's something, you know, we can take to our advantage when coming back. You know, sometimes in KSP stock, sometimes it was hard to slow down because it didn't model drag kind of in a correct way. So that's pretty exciting. It also models lifting bodies, so this is particularly useful when you have, I don't have a huge cross section or a lot of, I have a fair bit of lift, but you know, if I have put even like bigger wings on this, I could really get some lifting body effects to kind of glide around, similar to what the, you know, space shuttle has. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn on this really cool thing using the debug menu, which you can do too. And it will show you the effects aerodynamics is having on your plane. So you can see the blue is, you know, the lift, yellow is, you know, dealing with control surfaces, and if I can get this to work there, you can see some red. So those landing gears are causing, because they're out right now, they're causing drag. You can see that. So like the higher that red bar goes, kind of the more drag that's being modeled. I'm kind of flying at a funky angle here too, so that's causing me to get some drag going. So you can see that. That's really cool. It's a really cool way to test out your aircraft, particularly as I start to expose the bottom of the craft to the airstream. You'll really start to see some drag. So that's something you have to consider and factor in when playing Kerbal Space Program now, which is awesome. I love drag. Drag is really exciting. Yeah, look at that. You can see that those air brakes. Look at those air brakes. Look how much drag they create. How far out those lines go. So it models drag and it models it well, which is absolutely 100% what we want here. And you'll see here as I turn around here, definitely creating some drag. That was actually a pretty nice maneuver. So not too bad. And we're kind of coming back, and watch as I put down the landing gears. What happens? That is awesome. Yep, increases drag significantly. That's awesome. That is exactly 100% what you want in Kerbal Space Program. Whee! It looks like a light show. So this is a really cool thing. If you hit Alt F12, you can do this too. Really good way to kind of debug your plane if you're starting out and you want to see the effects that your plane's having. It's a really good way to do that. Go check that out for certain. So I guess it kind of makes sense, right? To kind of fly like an SSTO, and man, I tried this. This took me forever. I was trying to get into orbit. I actually ended up doing it later when I wasn't recording, but it is extremely difficult, and a lot of it has to do not even necessarily so much with aerodynamics. It is a factor just because of the speeds you're hitting now, but as you'll see now, I'm starting to heat up, and with the new kind of re-entry mechanics, the heating, it seems like space planes, they seem to be able to take about 2,000 degrees Kelvin, and so that's an issue. You saw something just fell off, and then I just lost my cockpit. So yeah, it's hard. Space planes and SSTOs, I think, are going to be really hard. It's not going to be even with FAR. You know, FAR, I think, I honestly felt FAR didn't handle space planes overwhelmingly well. Or I should really say deadly reentry. You know, deadly reentry, you could get away. I feel like you could get away with a lot more in terms of SSTOs. And so, I don't know. SSTOs, I think, will totally be viable, but it's something that you're going to really have to work at. You're going to really have to try to, fix kind of on your own method. Really debug it, test it out thoroughly. Honestly, I think shuttles are going to become a lot more viable. I think that's going to be maybe the push we see, hopefully, in KSP, because I think shuttles are cool. Because I think shuttles will be a lot more viable in terms of kind of a standard vertical takeoff. I think that'll work out pretty well. And we're heating up again, so I'm trying to manage this. And really how it ended up happening was you really just have to manage your heat. It kind of becomes a game where you manage heat. If you had did SSTOs prior to the new Aerodynamics release and reentry effects release in 1.0, it was kind of a game. You just kind of you had air intakes. You would you'd reach a certain level and then you would speed up. You'd gain a lot of speed and velocity, and then you would head up, and then eventually you would just kind of you'd eventually work your way into orbit. It wasn't too bad. You'll see. I think my reentry. I have a drone core on this, thankfully, because my poor pilots, they died again. And you'll see, I came pretty close to getting this craft in, but just lack of fuel was kind of the big issue. And obviously, I could just attach on. It just really was a matter of putting on more fuel, because we have a lot of thrust to weight ratio. It's very high, so that wasn't really an issue. So we could definitely do that. Yeah, it's a little bit harder, and realistically so, I think. SSTOs, there's a reason why SSTOs have not been done, many reasons, but it's just a very difficult thing to do, to be able to take off horizontally and then, come back and do this. And I'm just kind of having a little bit of fun here, basically exploiting myself for your amusement. But hopefully you've enjoyed. If you did, go ahead, tap that like button. I would really appreciate it. And I would love to have you on board as a subscriber, too, if you want to see more. And finally, I want to hear your guys' comments, suggestions, anything you want me to do in 1.0. Let me know. I'm probably going to do maybe a resource video, and then, I don't know, I might move on and maybe do like a 1.0 career mode, depending what you guys think. So, again, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.